You know, most people think discipline is about restriction, about cutting out the fun. But let me tell you the truth. Discipline is the key to freedom. Without discipline, you're a slave to your moods, your habits, and your circumstances. But with discipline, you take the steering wheel of your life. You decide where you're going. So today, I want to show you how to build that discipline and why it's the most important investment you'll ever make. I remember when I was 25, broke and frustrated, working hard but getting nowhere. One day, my mentor, Earl Schoaf, said to me, "Jim, success isn't something you pursue. It's something you attract by the person you become. And who you become is determined by your daily disciplines." That hit me like a lightning bolt, because I realized I didn't need to change my circumstances first. I needed to change myself. And that started with discipline. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever made a New Year's resolution, felt excited for a week, and then life happened? Motivation faded. The routine got boring, and before you knew it, you were back to square one. That's because motivation gets you started, but discipline keeps you going. And if you don't have discipline, all the motivation in the world won't help you cross the finish line. I've often said, don't wish it were easier, wish you were better. And the way to get better? It's through discipline. Life will test you. Obstacles will come. But discipline is the shield that protects your goals from life's punches. It's the quiet force that turns dreams into reality. And today, I'm going to show you how to harness that force. Discipline is like a muscle. You don't build it by thinking about it or wishing for it. You build it by showing up day after day, doing the hard things even when you don't feel like it. The question is, are you willing to put in the reps? Because I promise you, the pain of discipline is nothing compared to the pain of regret. Discipline begins with self-awareness. You see, before you can master discipline, you have to understand yourself. It sounds simple, but it's often the step people skip. They jump straight into setting goals, creating routines, and pushing themselves harder without first asking the most important questions. What do I truly want? Why do I want it? And what's been holding me back? I remember early in my career, I was frustrated. I wanted success. I really did. I was working hard, trying different things, but I wasn't seeing the results I expected. And it wasn't until I stopped and took a hard look at myself that things started to change. I asked myself, what am I doing every day? Where is my time going? And more importantly, what habits are keeping me stuck where I am? That was a tough pill to swallow. It's easy to blame circumstances or other people, but the truth? I was the biggest obstacle in my own life. Self-awareness is about honesty. It's about being willing to face the uncomfortable truths about your habits, your mindset, and your patterns. You can't change what you don't acknowledge. Maybe you procrastinate because deep down you're afraid of failing. Maybe you avoid setting goals because you're worried about falling short. Or maybe, like I was, you're just running on autopilot, doing the same things every day and expecting different results. When you take the time to reflect on these things, you gain clarity, and clarity is powerful because once you understand why you're stuck, you can start to take control. You realize that discipline isn't just about forcing yourself to work harder, it's about working smarter. It's about identifying the habits that aren't serving you and replacing them with ones that will. Let me give you an example. I used to stay up late watching TV. It wasn't a big deal at first, but over time it became a habit. I'd wake up late, feel groggy, and start my day already behind. I'd tell myself, I'll be more productive tomorrow. But tomorrow would come, and the cycle would repeat. It wasn't until I became aware of that pattern that I could change it. I realized that if I wanted to get ahead, I had to start by changing how I ended my day. So I made a conscious decision to turn off the TV an hour earlier, go to bed on time, and wake up feeling refreshed. That one small shift had a ripple effect on my entire day and my life. But here's the thing, self-awareness isn't a one-time event. It's a practice. You have to check in with yourself regularly. Ask, am I staying true to my goals? Are my actions aligned with what I want? And when you notice yourself slipping, and you will slip, that awareness allows you to course correct before you veer too far off track. The beauty of self-awareness is that it puts you in the driver's seat. It gives you the power to recognize your strengths, address your weaknesses, and take responsibility for your progress. Because discipline isn't just about pushing harder, it's about knowing yourself well enough to navigate the journey with intention and purpose. And that's where it all starts. If you want to build lasting discipline, you've got to start with yourself. You know, when people hear about discipline, they often think it's about making these huge, sweeping changes overnight, like waking up one day and suddenly becoming this ultra-productive, unstoppable force. But let me tell you, that's not how it works. Discipline isn't about grand gestures. It's about small, consistent actions that compound over time. You've got to start small, but think big. I remember when I first decided to turn my life around. I was broke, frustrated, and feeling stuck. I wanted big results, fast. But every time I tried to overhaul my life in one big leap, I'd burn out, get overwhelmed, and end up right back where I started. It wasn't until I learned the power of small steps that things began to shift. Think about this. You don't climb a mountain in one giant leap. You climb it one step at a time. And those steps, they may seem small, even insignificant, but they're what get you to the top. The key is to focus on those little actions that move you forward day after day. Let's say you want to get in shape. Most people will go out, buy an expensive gym membership, commit to working out 7 days a week, and completely overhaul their diet. And you know what happens? 2 weeks later, they're sore, exhausted, and frustrated because the results aren't immediate. So they quit. But if you start small, maybe just 10 minutes of exercise a day, or swapping out one unhealthy meal for a healthy one, you build momentum. You prove to yourself that you can follow through, and that momentum, it grows. When I started building better financial habits, I didn't suddenly become a master at managing money. I began with something simple, saving a small percentage of my income. At first, it felt like nothing, just a few dollars here and there. But over time, those small savings added up. And more importantly, they built the habit of being disciplined with my money. Eventually, those little savings turned into investments, and those investments turned into financial freedom. The beauty of starting small is that it removes the pressure. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be consistent. Small wins lead to big victories. Every time you follow through on a small commitment, you build confidence in yourself, and that confidence fuels bigger actions. But while you're starting small, you've got to keep your eyes on the big picture. Don't lose sight of where you're headed. It's like planting a seed. You don't see the tree right away, but you water it every day, knowing that with time and care, it will grow. The small actions are the seeds. The big results come later. So don't underestimate the power of starting small. Those little steps, taken consistently, are what lead to massive success. One of the greatest lessons I've ever learned about discipline is the art of delaying gratification. You see, in today's world, we're surrounded by instant everything. Instant food, instant entertainment, instant information. We've gotten so used to getting what we want right when we want it that we've forgotten one of the most powerful truths about success. The best things in life take time. Now, I wasn't always good at this. Early in my life, I wanted results fast. If I didn't see immediate progress, I'd get frustrated and give up. I wanted the rewards without the patience, the harvest without the planting season. But life doesn't work that way. Success, real lasting success, is built by those who are willing to play the long game, those who can resist the temptation of short-term pleasures for the sake of long-term gains. I remember a time when I was just starting out in business. I had this opportunity to make a quick buck. Nothing illegal, but it wasn't exactly aligned with the values I wanted to build my life around. It was tempting. The money looked good, and it would have solved a few of my immediate problems. But I knew deep down it wasn't the right move. I passed on that quick fix, and instead, I focused on building something solid, something sustainable. It took longer, it was harder, and there were times I doubted myself. But in the end, that decision to delay gratification paid off in ways I couldn't have imagined. I built something I was proud of, not just something that filled my pockets for the moment. And that's the thing about delaying gratification. It's about choosing what you want most over what you want now. Think about that. Do you want the fleeting comfort of a lazy afternoon, or do you want the lasting satisfaction of achieving your goals? It's easy to indulge in the moment, but discipline asks you to look beyond today. It asks you to keep your eyes on the future. Take health and fitness, for example. Anyone can skip a workout and sit on the couch with a bag of chips. That's the easy choice. But the disciplined person sees beyond that moment of comfort. They know that the body they want, the energy they crave, isn't built in a day. It's built over months and years of consistent effort. The same goes for financial discipline. It's easy to spend that extra money on things you don't need because it feels good in the moment. But the person who delays gratification, who saves and invests, is the one who builds real wealth over time. It all comes down to understanding this. Sacrificing today's pleasures for tomorrow's rewards isn't a loss. It's an investment. Every time you delay gratification, you're making a deposit into your future. You're saying, I believe in the long-term payoff more than the short-term thrill. So, if you want to build discipline, learn to play the long game. Understand that the most meaningful achievements come not from what you do once, but from what you do consistently over time. The rewards are worth the wait. One of the hardest but most crucial lessons I ever learned about discipline is the power of prioritization. You see, it's not just about doing things, it's about doing the right things. Life is full of distractions, opportunities, and demands, pulling us in 100 different directions. But if you want to build real discipline, you've got to learn how to focus ruthlessly on what truly matters. I remember early in my career, I thought being busy was the same as being productive. I filled my days with meetings, phone calls, and endless to-do lists. At the end of the day, I'd feel exhausted but frustrated because I wasn't making real progress toward my goals. I was spinning my wheels, doing a lot, but not moving forward. That's when I realized being busy isn't the same as being effective. Discipline isn't just about doing more, it's about doing what matters most. I had to step back and ask myself some tough questions. What are my real goals? What actions will get me closer to them? And what's just noise? When you start to ask these questions, you realize that not everything deserves your time and energy. In fact, a lot of what we spend time on is just a distraction from what's truly important. I like to think of it this way. Imagine you have a jar and a bunch of big rocks, pebbles, and sand. The big rocks represent the most important things in your life. Your goals, your health, your relationships, your personal growth. The pebbles are the things that matter, but aren't as critical, like hobbies or minor tasks. And the sand, that's all the little stuff, the distractions, the time wasters, the things that don't really contribute to your long-term success. Now, if you fill the jar with sand first, there's no room for the rocks. But if you put the big rocks in first, the pebbles and sand can fit around them. That's how life works. If you don't prioritize the important things, the trivial stuff will fill your time and you'll never get to what really matters. So how do you prioritize ruthlessly? Start by getting clear on your goals, not vague ideas like, I want to be successful or I want to get healthy. Be specific. Do you want to write a book, build a business, run a marathon? Once you're clear on your goals, ask yourself every day, is what I'm doing right now bringing me closer to that goal? If the answer is no, it's time to refocus. I learned this firsthand when I was trying to build better financial habits. There were so many things I could have spent money on. new gadgets, fancy dinners, little luxuries. But I had to ask myself, will this help me build financial freedom? If the answer was no, I passed on it. It wasn't easy, but focusing on what mattered most made all the difference. The same applies to your time. There will always be more things to do than time to do them. But when you prioritize ruthlessly, you start to see progress where it counts. You stop being busy for the sake of being busy and start being productive in a way that moves the needle in your life. So, if you want to build lasting discipline, don't just work hard, work smart. Focus on the things that truly matter and let go of the rest. Because at the end of the day, discipline isn't about doing everything. It's about doing what matters most and doing it with unwavering focus. When it comes to building discipline, one of the most powerful tools at your disposal is your routine. You see, discipline isn't just about those big, dramatic moments of willpower where you force yourself to make the hard choice. No, real discipline is built in the small, consistent actions you take every single day. It's your routine that shapes your life. Because what you do regularly becomes who you are. I learned this lesson early in my journey. I used to think that success was about big breakthroughs, those grand, sweeping efforts where you push yourself to the limit. But what I found was that it's not those rare moments that make the difference. It's the daily habits, the routines you build, that quietly but consistently move you toward your goals. Let me give you an example. When I first started in business, I wasn't the most organized person. I'd have good days where I was on top of everything, and then days where I'd completely fall off track. My productivity was inconsistent, and so were my results. But then I realized that successful people weren't necessarily working harder than me. They were working smarter. They had routines that supported their goals, routines that made it easier to stay disciplined, even when motivation was low. So I started small. Every morning, I committed to spending just 30 minutes reviewing my goals, planning my day, and focusing on my priorities. It didn't seem like much at first, but over time, that simple routine transformed how I approached my work. I was no longer reacting to the day, I was directing it. And as that routine became second nature, it became easier to stay disciplined without even thinking about it. That's the beauty of routines. They take the guesswork out of discipline. When you've got a routine in place, you don't have to wake up every day and decide whether you're going to work toward your goals. The decision's already been made. The routine guides you. Think about it like brushing your teeth. You don't wake up every morning debating whether or not you'll brush your teeth. You just do it. It's a habit, part of your routine. And that's exactly how you want to approach the habits that support your bigger goals. Whether it's exercising, working on a project, or improving your skills, when you build it into your daily routine, it stops feeling like a chore and starts becoming part of who you are. But here's the key. Your routines need to align with your goals. It's not enough to just be busy. You need to make sure your daily actions are actually moving you closer to where you want to be. If your goal is to get in shape, your routine might include a morning workout or prepping healthy meals. If you're building a business, maybe it's setting aside focused time each day to work on your strategy. Whatever it is, the routine should serve as the foundation for your discipline. And don't be afraid to adjust your routine as you grow. Life changes, goals evolve, and your routines should evolve with them. But the core idea stays the same. Build habits that support the life you want to create, because once your routines are aligned with your goals, discipline stops feeling like a struggle. It becomes a natural part of your day. In the end, discipline isn't just about what you do in the big moments. It's about the structure you create for yourself, day in and day out. When you build routines that support your goals, you set yourself up for success without even realizing it. And that's where true, lasting discipline begins. If you want to build discipline, one of the most important things you can do is surround yourself with the right people. I've said it before and I'll say it again, you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Think about that for a moment. The people in your life have a profound impact on your habits, your mindset, and ultimately your success. So the question is, who are you spending your time with? When I was younger, I didn't fully appreciate how much influence the people around me had on my life. I was ambitious, sure, but I wasn't always careful about the company I kept. I found myself around people who didn't have much direction, who weren't interested in growth or discipline, and without even realizing it, their attitude started rubbing off on me. I became more complacent, less focused, and before long, my progress stalled. It wasn't until I started intentionally seeking out mentors and peers who were disciplined and driven that things began to change. I remember meeting one of my early mentors, a man who had built an incredibly successful business from the ground up. What struck me wasn't just his knowledge or his achievements, but his unwavering discipline. He had routines, standards, and a level of focus that was contagious. Just being around him made me want to step up my game. I started adopting his habits, learning from his mindset, and that influence pushed me to new levels I hadn't reached before. That's the power of surrounding yourself with the right people. When you're around those who are disciplined, motivated, and committed to their goals, it naturally pulls you in the same direction. It's like being part of a strong current. You can't help but be carried along. Their habits become your habits. Their mindset becomes your mindset. But the opposite is also true. If you're spending time with people who are constantly distracted, unmotivated, or negative, it's going to drag you down. You might start making excuses, cutting corners, or losing sight of your goals without even realizing it. That's why it's so important to be intentional about who you let into your circle. Now, this doesn't mean you have to cut people out of your life completely, but you do need to be aware of the influence they have on you. Ask yourself, are the people around me lifting me up or pulling me down? Are they encouraging me to be disciplined and focused, or are they distracting me from my goals? Surrounding yourself with the right people doesn't just mean finding mentors. It also means building a community of like-minded individuals who support and challenge you. Whether it's friends, colleagues, or even an accountability partner, having people who share your values and goals can make all the difference. You'll push each other to be better, celebrate each other's wins, and hold each other accountable when things get tough. I've seen this firsthand in my own life. When I partnered with a colleague to improve our financial habits, it wasn't just about having someone to check in with. It was about sharing the journey. Knowing that someone else was striving for the same goals made the process easier and more enjoyable. And when one of us stumbled, the other was there to offer support and encouragement. The truth is, discipline isn't just a solo endeavor. Yes, you have to do the work yourself, but having the right people around you can make the journey smoother and more rewarding. So take a good look at your circle. Find those who inspire you, who challenge you to grow, and who embody the discipline you want to cultivate in your own life. Because when you surround yourself with the right people, discipline becomes not just something you practice, but something you live. The most overlooked parts of building discipline is patience. You see, we live in a world that craves instant results, instant success, instant gratification. But discipline doesn't work like that. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. It's about trusting the process, even when you don't see immediate rewards. And let me tell you, that's where a lot of people stumble. They start strong, full of excitement and motivation, but when the results don't show up right away, they get discouraged. They think, why am I putting in all this effort if nothing's changing? And that's when they give up. But here's the truth. The results are happening even if you can't see them yet. Discipline is like planting seeds. You don't plant a seed today and expect a tree tomorrow. You water it, you nurture it, and you trust that in time, with enough care and consistency, it will grow. But if you stop watering it because you don't see immediate progress, the seed never has a chance to become what it was meant to be. I remember when I first started my career, I was eager to see big changes. I wanted success right away. But life doesn't hand out rewards just because you want them. I had to show up day after day, doing the work even when it felt like nothing was happening. And believe me, there were times I felt like quitting, times I wondered if all the effort was worth it. But I kept reminding myself, trust the process. One of the clearest examples in my life was when I started setting aside a small percentage of my income for savings. At first, it felt almost pointless. I was saving such a small amount that it didn't seem like it would ever make a difference. But I stuck with it. Month after month, I kept saving, even when it felt like the progress was painfully slow. And over time, something incredible happened. Those small amounts added up. The habits I built started to pay off. And eventually, I looked back and realized how far I'd come. It wasn't just the money that grew. It was the discipline, the mindset, and the confidence that came from sticking with it. That's the magic of patience. The changes might be invisible at first, but they're happening beneath the surface. Every time you make a disciplined choice, you're building a foundation for future success. It's like compounding interest, not just in your finances, but in every area of your life. The small, consistent actions you take today will multiply over time, but only if you stick with them long enough to see the results. Only if you stick with them long enough to see the results. The problem is we often get too focused on the finish line. We're so eager to reach the goal that we forget the journey is where the real growth happens. Success isn't just about achieving a specific result. It's about becoming the kind of person who can achieve that result. And that transformation takes time. So if you're feeling frustrated because things aren't moving as fast as you'd like, I want you to remember this. Discipline is not about immediate rewards. It's about trusting the process, showing up every day, and knowing that the work you're doing matters, even when it doesn't feel like it. The results will come, but only if you're patient enough to let them. Let's talk about something that trips up more people than almost anything else on the road to discipline: failure. Most people think discipline means getting it right every time. They imagine the disciplined person as someone who never misses a workout, never breaks a promise, never slips up. But let me tell you something that might surprise you. Discipline isn't about being perfect. It's about being persistent. It's about sticking with your goals even when you stumble. And believe me, you will stumble. I've had my fair share of failures, and I'll tell you, they were some of the most valuable lessons in my life. Early in my career, I thought if I just worked hard enough and planned carefully enough, everything would fall perfectly into place. But life has a funny way of teaching you lessons you didn't even know you needed. I remember launching a business venture that I was certain would succeed. I'd done my homework, I'd put in the hours, and I was disciplined. Or so I thought, but guess what? It flopped. I was frustrated, embarrassed even. I started questioning everything: my effort, my abilities, my discipline. But here's the thing, that failure didn't mean I wasn't disciplined. It just meant I was learning. You see, failure isn't the opposite of discipline. It's part of the process. It's where the real growth happens. When you fail, you have two choices. You can let it defeat you, or you can let it teach you. The disciplined person chooses the latter. They look at failure not as a dead end, but as a detour, a chance to adjust, refine, and come back stronger. Think about this. When a baby learns to walk, how many times do they fall? Dozens, maybe hundreds. But do they give up? No. Each fall teaches them something new about balance, about movement, about how to get up again. That's how discipline works. Every failure is like falling when you're learning to walk. It's not a sign you're not capable, it's a sign you're on your way. One of the biggest mistakes people make is thinking that a single setback defines their journey. They miss a workout and suddenly they think, well, I've failed, might as well quit. Or they slip up on their diet and they convince themselves they're not disciplined enough to stick with it. But that's not how it works. Missing one day doesn't ruin your progress. What matters is what you do the next day. Do you get back up? Do you keep going? Because that's what discipline really is. It's the ability to keep moving forward even when you've fallen flat on your face. I remember one particular year when I set a goal to read a certain number of books. I started strong, but life got busy and I missed a few weeks. At first, I felt like I'd blown it. But then I reminded myself, the goal isn't perfection, it's progress. So I picked up the next book and kept going. By the end of the year, I hadn't read every book I planned, but I'd read more than I ever had before, and that's what mattered. The failure didn't define me, my persistence did. So, the next time you stumble, and you will, don't beat yourself up. Don't let a momentary setback convince you that you're not capable. Instead, see it for what it is. A lesson, a stepping stone, a necessary part of the journey. Discipline isn't about never failing. It's about never quitting. Now, if there's one thing that separates those who succeed from those who don't, it's accountability. You see, discipline and accountability go hand in hand. You can set all the goals in the world, dream as big as you want, but if you don't hold yourself accountable, those dreams will stay just that, dreams. Accountability is the bridge between intention and action. It's that inner voice that says, did you do what you said you were going to do? And let me tell you, the people who learn to answer that question honestly are the ones who achieve real success. I remember when I first started trying to improve my financial habits, I had big ideas about saving, investing, building wealth, but for a while they were just ideas. I'd tell myself, I'll start saving next month, or I'll be more careful with my spending later. But later never came. It wasn't until I realized that no one was going to do it for me that things started to change. I had to be the one to take responsibility. So I set a specific goal to save a certain percentage of my income each month. But I didn't stop there. I told a colleague about it, someone I trusted, and we agreed to check in with each other at the end of every month. Knowing that I had to report my progress to someone else kept me sharp. Suddenly, it wasn't just about wanting to be disciplined, it was about proving it. Not just to him, but to myself. But accountability doesn't always require another person. Sometimes the most powerful form of accountability is the one you have with yourself. And let me tell you, being accountable to yourself can be even tougher because it's easy to let yourself off the hook. It's easy to say, I'll do it tomorrow, or it's just one day. It won't matter. But discipline means holding yourself to a higher standard even when no one's watching, especially when no one's watching. One of the best tools I've found for personal accountability is tracking your progress. I've always kept a journal, not just for reflection, but for recording what I did each day toward my goals. Whether it was how many pages I read, how many calls I made, or how consistently I stuck to my routine, it all went into the journal. And let me tell you, there's something powerful about seeing your progress in black and white. It keeps you honest. When you flip back through those pages and see the days you followed through and the days you didn't, it's a mirror, and that mirror doesn't lie. I'll give you another example. When I first started speaking publicly, I set a goal to practice every single day, even if it was just for 15 minutes. And every evening, I'd write down whether or not I'd done it. Some days I'd feel tired or uninspired, and the temptation to skip would creep in. But knowing that I had to write it down kept me going. I didn't want to see a blank space in that journal. That little habit of tracking my practice kept me disciplined, and over time, those small, consistent efforts led to big improvements. Accountability doesn't mean being perfect. You'll have days where you fall short. But when you hold yourself accountable, you don't hide from those days. You face them, you learn from them, and most importantly, you get back on track. Because in the end, discipline isn't just about setting goals. It's about owning them. Now, if there's one thing that keeps discipline alive, it's having a clear vision and a strong purpose. You see, discipline without direction is like a ship without a compass. It might be moving, but it's going nowhere. When you don't know why you're doing something, it's easy to lose motivation. It's easy to wake up one morning, look at your goals, and think, what's the point? But when your vision is clear and your purpose is strong, that's what pulls you through the tough days. That's what keeps you moving when the excitement fades and all that's left is the grind. I remember early in my career, when I was trying to get my life on track. I'd been drifting, doing just enough to get by, but not really making any progress. Then one day, someone asked me a question that stopped me in my tracks. What do you really want out of life? It wasn't about money or success or recognition. It was deeper than that. And I realized I didn't have an answer. I was working, but I didn't know what I was working for. That was a wake-up call. I sat down and started thinking, really thinking about the kind of life I wanted to build. I wanted to have financial freedom, yes. But more than that, I wanted to be someone my family could be proud of. I wanted to contribute something meaningful. That vision became my driving force, and it gave me the discipline to stick to my goals, even when things got tough. You see, when your why is strong enough, the how becomes easier. It doesn't mean the road will be smooth. Life will still throw challenges your way. But when you have a clear vision, you're not easily swayed by distractions or setbacks. You have something solid to hold on to. That clarity acts like an anchor. When storms come, and they will come, it keeps you grounded. I'll give you another example. When I started saving money, it wasn't just about accumulating wealth for the sake of it. My vision was to create a life where I had choices, where I wasn't bound by financial stress, where I could take care of my family and give back to my community. That purpose made it easier to say no to unnecessary spending. Every time I felt tempted to splurge on something I didn't need, I'd remind myself of the bigger picture. Is this helping me get closer to my vision? And if the answer was no, the decision became simple. But here's the thing. Vision isn't something you set once and forget about. You've got to keep it in front of you, write it down, revisit it regularly, and remind yourself why you started in the first place. Life has a way of pulling you in different directions, and without constant reminders, it's easy to drift off course. I used to carry a small card in my pocket with my goals and vision written on it. Whenever I felt distracted or discouraged, I'd pull that card out and read it. It was a simple practice, but it kept my purpose front and center, and that made all the difference. In the end, discipline isn't just about willpower. It's about having a reason strong enough to keep going. When your vision is clear and your purpose is strong, discipline stops feeling like a chore. It becomes a natural part of who you are. Discipline is the bridge between who you are and who you want to become. It's not about being perfect. It's about being consistent, about showing up even when it's hard, and staying committed to your vision when the excitement fades. Life will test you with distractions, setbacks, and failures, but discipline keeps you grounded. It's the daily choices, the small sacrifices, and the ability to delay gratification that shape your future. So take control of your habits. Surround yourself with the right people and stay connected to your purpose. Because with discipline, there's no limit to what you can achieve.